Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Talking Fitness. I have with me today a very special guest, Mr. John ROMANO. How are you, sir?
Great. How you guys doing?
I'm doing great. And I also have my co-host, Ryan Paderaki. Welcome back.
Pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, breaking up a little bit there. So I was going to do like a big introduction of you, John, but if I sat here and listed all the titles you've had and everything you've done, I would be talking half the show. So if you don't mind, we'll just kind of go down the list here and we'll talk a little bit about each of them, if you don't mind. And
whatever you want. Sure.
Okay, cool. So I did, obviously I did my research, and every article I came across and a lot of the shows that I watch, you've actually been called one of the pioneers of fitness and bodybuilding, which is a pretty high honor.
I'll say.
yeah. I mean, it really is. And when we start talking about your stuff, I could see it, and that's a pretty high honor. It's almost up there with Arnold, man.
I don't even believe I deserve that. So I don't know who thought of that, but that was really nice of you.
Yeah. No, it's more than one place. So obviously somebody else other than one person thought about it. Yeah.
Well, it's because I'm old and I've just been around forever and survived.
Well, one of the podcasts I was watching, and we'll talk about that, is you were actually the senior editor for Muscular Development Magazine, which I don't think you did this one, but I gotta, for all those who don't know the magazine. How long were you with them?
18 years.
Oh, wow. That was a long time.
Long time.
Yeah. And I actually saw where you had said that what actually got you inspired by writing was watching the 1972 Olympics.
Olympia.
Yeah. Olympia. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Who was in
I don't
it?
think he was inspired by the Olympics with nothing to do with bodybuilding.
Yeah. I meant to say Olympia.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. You know what? You know why I said Olympics? Because I saw what's her name on the interview on Fox News last night.
Caitlyn Jenner. Yeah.
Caitlyn Jenner. Yeah. I don't know. For some reason, I thought of the Olympics.
Yeah. For some reason.
Yeah.
Some distant, removed reason.
Yeah. It's crazy. So you started with Muscular Development, and then you started your own cookbook. Was that around the same time?
Well, I actually started, my first article was in a newspaper called Modern Bodybuilding that a guy named Jason Mathis published back somewhere in the 80s. And then Muscular Development. Well, I was the muscle chef on ESPN's American Muscle. So I was cooking on that show. And somewhere in the early 1990s, Twin Lab bought Muscular Development Magazine from New York Barbell, and they were looking for a food column, and they approached me because they were kind of concomitantly supporting Lou Zwick and American Muscle Magazine, so they thought it would be a great fit if he also provided an article every month, and that was me. And so through that came through that association with Twin Lab and their publishing arm, Advanced Research Press. They approached me to do a cookbook, and I did, and they published it. Yeah, it's called Muscle. Still available on Amazon if you look.
Really? Yeah, I'll have to look it up. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, and I remember you too. And when I first actually started watching Palumbo shows, when I actually saw you, I'm like, that's the guy that was in Bigger, Stronger, Faster. And
yeah.
And was that before the ESPN stuff came, or was that?
Oh, no, that was way later. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Chris Bell approached me about doing this documentary he was working on about wrestlers and performance enhancement and steroids and whatnot, and he was just going in the wrong direction. So I told him so, and they hired me along with Rick Collins to be consultants on the film. And actually we were not only appeared in it in our respective roles, but we also consulted a great deal on the direction of the film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What year was that? That was a while ago.
Like 2007, 8, something in that ballpark, maybe.
Oh, or I think 2001 or 2. Yeah.
Yeah. It was early 2000s.
Yeah. It was early. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's cool. And then, so just to get everything clear here, we have to tell everybody, because I get a lot of people that ask that watch your show about who owned Muscular Development. Steve Bleckman. Can you tell everybody who Steve Bleckman is?
Okay.
You gotta do his impersonation, like you.
I gotta get in the mood for that. But okay, the genesis of the Bleckman era came when as I mentioned before, Twin Lab bought Muscular Development Magazine, or actually Twin Lab had a subsidiary company called Advanced Research Press, which bought the magazine from York Barbell. Mm-hmm. And Steve Bleckman, the reason it was called Twin Labs is that there was 5 brothers and the parents that ran the company. And of the 5 brothers, 2 of them were sets of twins. So there were two sets of twins, and then a third birth was just a single one. Actually, they had taken out an insurance policy at Lloyd's of London that the third pregnancy was also going to be twins.
Oh, wow.
They would have had kind of world record. But as it stands, 2 sets of twins. The father and the mother started the company Twin Labs, grew it to a tremendous success. They got to the point where they wanted to retire. They sold. They through some advanced investment banking. They took the company, they assembled an IPO, took the company public, cashed out mom and dad, and the brothers started running the company, which ultimately ran it into the ground. But while the parents were alive and involved, it was a huge, tremendous. It was the biggest sports supplement company at the time. I think they were doing $230 million a year, like in the early 90s, which was that's big time money.
That's crazy.
It's like 5 Redcons sewn together.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Steve Bleckman was one of the brothers of the younger sets of twins, who was supposedly involved in product development, research, whatnot. And he thought that having a magazine would be a good idea to promote, to go head to head with Weider, because Weider had their magazines and they were promoting their products. And Weider, so he followed that example and bought a magazine to promote his products. Because you got to remember, this is before internet, before forums, before cell phones. I mean, this was ages ago. So this was his way of entering into the sort of the advertorial aspect of publishing to promote Twin Lab products.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, bodybuilding, the magazines were the only outlets that they had for that type of marketing, correct?
You cut out. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yes, it would have. And for bodybuilding back in that time, I mean, the magazines were the only type of advertising and marketing that they had for supplement companies, right? Correct.
Absolutely. Yeah. We lived and breathed by what the magazines were saying. This was even, you got to remember, there was, you'd cover the Olympia, in the magazine, and nobody would know what happened. The average reader, unless they called the desk at Gold's Gym in Venice, nobody would know who won for 3 months, because it took that long to publish, and distribute the magazine. So, people hung on these magazines every month for every word, every article, every bit of news, because there was no other way to get it.
Yep, that's how it was when I first got interested in bodybuilding, like in the early mid 90s. And
right. Well, yeah, that was the peak. That was really when bodybuilding was exploding. Remember, Gold's Gym was erupting all over the place in the 90s. They grew to 600 gyms worldwide. And, that was a real explosive time in modern bodybuilding. And there was no way to find anything out about it unless it was, through a magazine. And that was it.
Gotcha.
Now, John, were you in California at this time?
Yes, I was.
You was. Okay.
Venice,
and did
California, one half block from Gold's Gym.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
What originally brought you out to California? I mean, how did you end up in the whole bodybuilding industry in the world? What was the allure or the first thing that, you know, kind of pulled you into that lifestyle?
California.
California, right?
Well, I grew up in New York City, and you know, every single thing I was interested in, whether it was motocross, the cars, stuff I was working on, the martial arts I was into, whatever I wanted, I had to send to California for the shit, you know? So, I mean, every single thing I did had some link to California. And when I got into bodybuilding, there was just no other place to go. So, I got out of high school, went into the Navy, got out of the Navy, and just went straight to California.
Now, fast forward, what, 30, 40 years now, everybody's hauling ass out of California.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yep. John, were you guys giving Weider a run for their money or no at the time?
Well, it was an interesting, you know, time. Was Twin Lab giving Weider supplements, you know, a run for their money? No. You know, Twin Lab had a great business model when it was, you know, when it was sort of focused on the health and fitness market. There was remember a book that came out, I forgot the name, it was by Dirk Pearson and Sandy Shaw. It was like the first, you know, health oriented book. And you know, Twin Lab kind of followed that lead and was not really immersed in bodybuilding. It was sort of like an offshoot, that, you know, secondary line that was sports supplements. So, and you know, that really grew.
Life Extension, is that what it's called?
Life Extensions, exactly. Life Extensions. So you know, that was their kind of more focus. So Weider was hardcore bodybuilding, a very lucrative endeavor on their part, and so they started competing with Weider. The problem with Bleckman was that he wanted to be Joe Weider, and Joe Weider thought Bleckman was a flea on a bull's ass. I mean, completely insignificant, and he wouldn't even acknowledge him. And he had a senior editor named Peter McGuff, who I'm sure you've heard of, recently passed away. Peter McGuff was tasked, and that enraged him because he wanted to be on Weider's level. You know, he wanted to be Weider's contemporary, and Weider said, I don't even want to acknowledge that you exist. Here, Peter, take care of this guy. So, you know, that sort of started the sort of magazine wars, and I was the guy who responded to Peter because literally I was Peter's contemporary. So, you know, that's where that blew up. But it was two separate things. It was the magazine wars and it was the supplement, you know, wars. As far as the supplements go, you know, Twin Lab was powerful, but they were powerful in a broad market. They didn't follow the Weider program until Weider. I think Weider bought, I forgot the name of the supplement company, was a real mainstream, you know, supplement company. But ultimately, you know, Weider was just a bigger, richer, more highly fungible company than Twin Lab.
Now, was your job actually to go out and recruit bodybuilders too, like to sign with the company and stuff?
Well, I mean, my job was to cover shows, to cover the industry, to pick up on what controversies were going on. There were a couple times that I was availed to, you know, some advanced, you know, preview of an up and coming star. I mean, you know, I was kind of involved with Branch Warren, getting signed with Twin Lab, Flex Wheeler, you know, also. So that I had some influence, some input when we were talking about it. I would suggest people, but you know, it was a pretty democratic, you know, it was really sifting through Weider's leftovers is really what it came down to, because, you know, Weider grabbed everybody first. All the great people were with Weider, and then, you know, what was left over is what we had to pick from, you know, we had to do our best, the best we could with what we had. We ended up with
internet connection is not great.
You know, excuse me?
Internet connections going in and out.
Oh, I'm hardwired in with an Ethernet, so
yeah,
I don't think it's me.
Yeah, it's probably me.
Gives you great editing challenges.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I'm still learning all this crap.
And then also going back, in that era, the being a leader athlete held a lot more prestige to it as well, right? So.
Oh yeah, it wasn't even comparable. I mean, back then too, bodybuilding globally was way bigger than it was in the United States. I mean, you go to FIBO in Germany in the 90s and you think you were at a freaking Woodstock. I mean, a 3-day rock festival. It was absolutely incredible. So it was definitely it was a very different environment back then in every aspect. It was much more insular and self-contained.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, there's still a lot of international countries still appreciate and have a huge, much larger fan support of. Am I correct?
Oh, Japan is like exploding right now with bodybuilding. All of Latin America with this wellness phenomenon that's going on now with all these girls working their asses out. I mean, it's going to be. It's just exploding everywhere around the world.
I know in the Middle East and in India, it's taking off as well, big time as well.
Exactly. And yeah, they make really good drugs in India too. So
helps a little bit.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, when did you go down to Mexico? What year did you go down there?
Well, the very first time was like in 1982.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Puerto Vallarta and I had won in a poker game. I won a week in a timeshare down there with some friends of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and I had the best time I've ever had in my entire life. And I went back with them the next year. And when I went back, I bought a week in their building. And then I just went like every year for a while. And then, after 3 or 4 years of going down there and making friends and getting to know the place, when you go back to the same place every time, it kind of
mm-hmm.
gets familiar rather than vacationing all over the place. I decided I would bank some weeks and I would spend a month down there and just see what it was like to actually live in Mexico. And if that was going to be a potential option
mm-hmm.
for me down the road. And so I did. I went down there. I banked my weeks. I went down for a month, and it was like you had to drag me back with my claws in the palm trees. I did not want to come home. And from that moment on, I started working on moving to Mexico, and ultimately bought a house and had a house built, and then moved there permanently. I guess 95, 6, something like that, and lived there until 2002 or 3.
Now, how'd you get into buying a gym?
Well, that came later.
Okay.
Well, actually, the original plan was to open a Gold's Gym down there, and I did actually own the license. I bought the license from Paul Grimkowski at Gold's.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the year, and it would have had to have been 92 or 93. And I owned the Gold's Gym license for Puerto Vallarta, and ultimately I was not able to open the gym there because there just wasn't enough population to support, the gym. Plus, whenever your gym is on the coast, technically half the houses are underwater, for your market. So you mean a gym belongs in the middle of a city, not on the outskirts, whether
mm-hmm.
it's a beach or the desert. So it was just not the right environment. It was too soon. Some years later, a good friend of mine from Alaska, John Blomfield, bought the license back, and he opened a tremendous club down there. It was very successful.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a good deal. Then later in 2012, I moved back to Mexico, this time to Guadalajara, because we bought a Gold's Gym there. And ultimately, it was a gym that was in trouble. A friend of mine owned it. He sold it to me with a great deal to turn it around. If I turned it around, it could, work out really well. And ultimately, we did. We turned it around, sold it, and bought into a bigger gym down there, which I ultimately sold my share out of. And now I'm completely out of the gym business.
Now, what's the cost there? I know it's got to be tremendous. The cost difference between opening a gym here and in Mexico.
Well, there's trade-offs. There's pros and cons
mm-hmm.
here, and there's pros and cons there, and they sort of balance themselves out. The one of the most difficult parts down there is getting equipment. There's a company, a friend of mine owns one, who, it was the only reason I was able to do it, was that he buys gyms that are going out of business in the States, or derelict gyms or whatever, buys all the equipment, the whole entire gym, puts it in a container, ship it to Guadalajara, and then they tear it apart, refurbish it, put packages together, and sell complete gyms. And he was also the master franchisee for Gold's Gym, and who I got my gym deal from. So because I had the equipment connection, I was able to open the gym. The other thing is that you cannot pay rent and operate a gym. You have to own the building. You absolutely have to own the building. If you pay rent, you'll be out of business within the first year, because it is a huge freaking nut, because you need a lot of space. And in Mexico, that's a little easier, because property is a little cheaper and a little easier to maintain and cobble together. There's no zoning laws. So my gym was we bought 6 residential buildings and, connected them together, and blew out walls and connected 6 buildings and made a gym out of it. You could never do that here. And if you could, it would cost you it would be so cost prohibitive, between the zoning laws you'd have to change, and the permits you'd have to get, and the insurance you'd have to have, and it would be crazy. So setup costs and maintenance is cheaper down there. But employee issues are more difficult. If somebody quits or you fire somebody, they sue you, and then you have to fight an employment lawsuit. That's a pain in the ass. There's all kinds of fees and stuff you have to pay. You have to pay for every employee's Social Security and their health insurance. So, I mean, it's definitely, there's a lot of costs, but ultimately, I would say if you're running a gym here in America or in any other country, you have to have the basics covered as far as expenses go, which means you have to own the building, you have to own your equipment, and you have to have an extremely low monthly overhead, or you're gonna die. Because back in the day, you could get $50 a month, for a gym membership. Now you're lucky if you can get 10. Yeah. So you're screwed. You got to have a massive volume of people to sell memberships that have bought memberships, and very little of them showing up to the gym. So it's the Planet Fitness model, basically, is the one that works.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
And now, how about the cartel? Did they mess with you at all?
Well, no, not at all. I've been going in there for so long that I just kind of like knew a lot of the right people. My partner there was very well connected. And I was actually friends with one of the former chiefs of police of Mexico City, and had a very easy time of getting whatever I needed.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's pretty good.
Yeah, and I had a good lawyer who was, able to get me my residency visa without having to go through all of those hoops. And yeah, I had a much easier time of it than the average person would, only because, I put in the years and had the connections in order to do that stuff. Even imports, even getting my stuff into the country from anywhere. I had a customs broker in LA that would take delivery of my stuff and forward it to me in Mexico. Otherwise, I would never get anything. Stuff would get held up at customs. They'd go through they'd pick what they want, and then they'd assign you some massive value that they think it's worth, that you have to pay 50% of in taxes, plus 15% EVA. So, that's why a tub of protein powder down there costs $160.
Oh, Jesus. Man, that's crazy.
At GNC. Yeah. If you're bringing it in legit, yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
That's impossible.
Right, exactly.
So, John, how come you never competed, or did you?
Oh, I did.
Yeah. How many years did you compete?
1.
I was saying, because the pictures I saw, I mean, you got a good physique and everything. And
well, the last year I competed was 1983, early 1983. So what was available in 1983? No internet, no digital cameras, none of that stuff. I was in a really nasty divorce and custody battle with my first wife, and who, when she moved out incinerated every belonging I had, which included all my records, all my photos, all my books, all my papers, all of everything. So I have absolutely, except for the various pictures here and there in a magazine that were published at the time, that some people have actually sent me pictures that I was, in the, I have no photo, history of my bodybuilding, my very short bodybuilding career, which is probably pretty good, because I wasn't really that good. I realized early on my genetic pool was not going to bring me very far in bodybuilding. So, I have a couple good traits, but not enough of them to put together a great, physique. So I found another path.
Yeah. I know a lot of the, I watched a lot of the old shows and stuff of the old Backstage of the Olympias and stuff like that. And I always saw you back there taking pictures of people.
I was at 22 Olympias in a row. Yeah.
Yeah. You and Dexter at all of them.
Yeah. In fact, I just recently had Dexter on my podcast, Fitness, Fame, and Fortune, with Rich Gaspari. And we had Dexter on, and we were reminiscing about when he won the Arnold Classic the first time. He and I were checking into the DoubleTree at the same time. And when you checked into the DoubleTree Hotel, they gave you these 2 chocolate chip cookies that they just baked behind the counter, and they're like retarded good. And I was doing keto at the time, and I said I didn't want them, so Dexter was checking in next to me, and I gave them to him, and he took them, and he won the show.
Yeah.
So we blame the cookies.
Yeah.
Cool. Those cookies are crazy, because I remember when I was young, I was doing a paper route out at Disney here in Orlando, and every night we would go to the DoubleTree. That would be the first thing we went to that counter to give them their paper to get some cookies.
They were right out of the oven, boy.
They kept them warm, a little warmer.
Yep.
They still do that or no?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't been to the DoubleTree in a long time.
Yeah, I haven't stayed at a DoubleTree in forever.
I don't even know if they're still in business. Who knows?
Yeah, there's no telling.
Yeah.
So let's fast forward a little bit. So you talked about your podcast with Rich Gaspari. How long have you known Rich Gaspari?
1987, we met the first time, right before he competed in the Olympia for the second time.
How'd you just met him through the magazine, or how did you meet him?
No, I was actually working at a chiropractor's office that he in Santa Monica that he came to. I met him there.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yep.
Yeah. And how's the Fitness, Fame, and Fortune doing?
We're doing good. We're starting to really pick up steam now. We're at a point now where we can monetize the site and start monetize the show and start putting together an ad campaign, for potential advertisers. It's a struggle, man. I don't know, how you guys have been doing, but it's
yeah.
I don't know what the sweet spot is. I don't know what the solution is. I mean, I see some guys that put up a podcast and it freaking sucks and they have 25 million views. And it's like,
don't get me started.
How is this possible? Like, what are you doing? And the other night, I was making pizza as one of my things that, I'm fixated on making it perfect. And I watch a lot of YouTube videos on pizza. Okay. And I came across this guy's going to make pizza crust with 2 ingredients. So I said, this has got to be a joke. So I watch it. There was this giant obese guy in a t-shirt from a bait company, fishing bait. Okay. So he's wearing, this guy weighs 400 pounds. He's got this giant black tent on with a bait t-shirt with a bait company on it, and he makes pizza out of like sour cream and oatmeal or some shit. He made I don't know what it was. I forgot the 2 ingredients. It sounded absolutely horrible. And he puts it together, smushes it around, puts it in a pan, throws some pepperoni on there in the oven. It looked like he ran over it with a truck. 3.7 million views the guy got. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Who is watching this knucklehead? And the lady in the car with the Chewbacca mask, remember her?
Yeah. Millions of views.
It's like the dang accident on the side of the road. I mean, nobody enjoys it, but everybody looks. It's just it's the train wreck, you know.
I don't know what it is. You know, we put out great. You know, we've had 5 Mr. Olympias. We've had the coolest guests that you can imagine. You know, Mr. Universes, Lou Ferrigno, Dexter Jackson, and you know, Jay Cutler, CT Fletcher. We've had Andy Frisella. We've had all these kind of guys on, and you know, 2,000 views, 3,000 views. I'm like, what the fuck? You know?
Then you got Big Lenny hitting hundreds of thousands of views on his.
What is that?
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
armpits and come on.
I guess I need to sniff some armpits to get views. I guess.
Licking them, man.
Where's he been? We're gonna get to that in a minute, but where's Big Lenny been?
You know, that's a good question. You know, Big Lenny's very sensitive, and I don't want to say anything out of line. I don't really know. All I know is fragments. There was a post of an arrest that looked an awful lot like him, who was arrested in Miami with some kind of controlled substance on him. I'm probably thinking it was, you know, some performance enhancing thing that they didn't really know what it was, not any recreational drug, but who knows. And he kind of fell off he kind of fell out of the debate with Mr. G. Excuse me. With Mr. G on that.
That's right. Well, maybe he's living the monk lifestyle, getting ready for the fight. And
I don't know. There was one video of him that he posted. He didn't look like he was doing much training for fighting. You know, more like for bobbing for apples, but for French fries. But Mr. G he is so serious about this. He's training 3 hours a day. He's doing Muay Thai one day, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu another day, boxing another day. He's weight training. He's running on the beach. He's doing, I mean, and before even any of that, we told him, you know, Lenny, he's going to kill you. But, you know, Lenny said he wasn't backing down, but Lenny has disappeared. So
maybe he's training in prison.
Maybe I'm not going to make any kind of forecast there. I don't know, and I don't really like to get out of turn.
Yeah, that's fine.
He's in Russia like Rocky IV. He's in Russia.
He might be holed up somewhere in Miami, like throwing down, losing 60 pounds. Who knows? I don't know. Anything's possible. So
I got some Miami PD connections. I'll have to find out.
I need some South Carolina PD connections if you can.
You know what? When I was on the K9 unit, I used to know a couple Charleston guys that I used to talk to, but I haven't. That's a different area up there, man. That's a different breed.
They're really cool here, the cops. They really are. I mean, you know, if you're not I think my experience with cops in the entire world, including Cuba, Mexico, Costa Rica, South America, all the cops around the world that I've come into contact with have always been cool with me because I've always been extremely cool with them. I have never been belligerent. I have never spoken back to them. I'm always like, I know you got a hard fucking job to do. Tell me what you want and I'll do it for you. And I've never had a problem. So, and here they're really cool here, you know, but you know, I just want to know who even wants to be a cop today. I mean, you got to be out of your mind.
Yeah, it's tough. I got over 20 years in now, so I'm on the downslope. So somebody coming up today, I would definitely tell them to do some research.
Well, somebody just said last night, I forgot what show I was watching. I had it on in the background, and they said that the police academy is empty. There's no recruits.
Probably
nobody's
in New York
joining. So it's gonna. They may the lefty wingnuts may have their wish soon.
So what happens to the law enforcement if there is none to fulfill the jobs, Jason? I mean, does the military step in? Is that like the big picture? Is that what like?
It just depends. It depends on where you're at. Like if you get some of these cities where the municipalities are getting small, the state police will take over, and then or the sheriff's office will take over. But then when they run out of people, I'm assuming the National Guard would take over.
That's all that's left, you know. I'm sure military enlistments are going to go down too.
That's what I was going to say next. I'd imagine that's the next one.
Yeah.
So,
they even want to take cop shows off the air, like, you know,
they're already off.
No good anymore. you know?
Yeah, they cops and what's the new one? There was another show. They were riding with us for a while, and then after the incident in Minnesota, they pulled the plug. They all left. So it's crazy.
Don't get me started.
Yeah, no, we won't.
Have a show you can't air.
Yeah, that's what I said when because I've been trying to get Lee on. I'm like, I want Lee on, but then again, I don't know if I want Lee on.
Yeah, we don't get to monetize Lee's shows.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have to check the not for kids button.
Yeah, he's still cool though. I like him.
Lee's the best, man. I love Lee. I've known him forever too. You know, I remember when I first saw him. Oh boy, that was like, he was such a freak, man. He was just standing there. You just couldn't stop staring at him. I mean, he was absolutely from another planet.
Wasn't Lee with Twin Lab back in the day in the 90s?
I think it was later. It was in the I think it was probably the 2000s that Lee came on board.
Okay, gotcha.
I think that was after Dave and I left that he came on. Or no. He was on before, and then he left, and then he came back. Yeah.
I remember a lot of those well-known photo shoots that he did on the Twin Lab advertising.
That's correct. That is correct. Yeah. With his arms. Yeah. Yeah. Crazy. God. Wow. There's so few guys, bodybuilders today, that can legit hit the myth pose. And Lee's got that all day long.
Yeah, very few do that.
Yep.
So how about the Wack Pack? Where did you guys all meet? let's get to the meat and potatoes.
A bunch of New Yorkers, correct? Or from up north?
How did you guys form? How did you guys meet? Because I know a lot of people that watch your show, and even myself is like, I don't know the history of you guys.
Oh wow. Well, it was started at Muscular Development, MD Online, when Dave Palumbo got hired. I was the senior editor of print. Dave was hired as senior editor of digital. And we wanted to come out with a radio show. They weren't called podcasts yet. That would go opposite Dan and Bob, on Pro Bodybuilding Weekly. And so, we sold Bleckman on the idea, and he said, go for it. So we had it was just Dave and me in the beginning, and then we'd have a guest, and then, we started having repeat guests, like Jimmy the Bull. I think he was the first, and Greg Valentino. And then it just, the next time, we turned around, and it's, we're all Italians from New York, so the whole bunch of us. So we decided, I don't know where we put the inevitable mafia connection came when we had the dinner at Jimmy the Bull's friend's restaurant in Little Italy in New York. And we went in through the back door, and they had a room in the back, and they could, and it just materialized from there.
And how long has that show been on with you guys?
Well, the Wack Pack ended. The actual Wack Pack ended when we left MD. We took that with us, but Valentino stayed behind, and we couldn't really. We actually tried to whack him on the air. We went into I don't know if you saw the episode. I threw a bag over his head and tried to suffocate him, but he lived. And we took that with us, and just have always called it the Wack Pack whenever but we were Heavy Muscle Radio on our first show. What we took from MD to RX Muscle, it became Heavy Muscle Radio. And the Wack Pack became like the Rat Pack, with Sinatra and those guys. It would just be the group of us who would, we had Derek Anthony, we had Jimmy the Bull, we had Palecchia, we had, Dave Palumbo, me, Greg Valentino, a couple of stragglers I'll probably think of in a minute, but that
was Mr. G's brother's name, and I remember seeing
Bobby Smalls, the White Biggie Smalls, Mr. G. They weren't Italian, but we adopted them, and that was the core of us that put together the entertainment faction of Muscular Development's website that later became This is the mistake Bleckman made. when Dave and I got the online community going at MD, it exploded. It grew so huge. We had one of the or two at the Olympia and at the Arnold Classic in probably 07, 08. We had a stage that was 25 feet. It was 20 feet by 50 feet, and it was set up in the expo of the Arnold Classic and later at the Olympia. We had hundreds of people. Bobby Smalls and Mr. G were on the microphones. They never took a break. They couldn't talk for 4 days afterwards. They lost their voices. We had push-up contests. We had bodybuilding contests. We had games. We had events, giveaways, incredible stuff. And it was just, the people just were going crazy. And we established this tribe, mentality. People were following us everywhere. So when Bleckman fired us and Dave and I started RX Muscle, all of those people followed us, every one of them. And just a handful of, nut hangers would stay at MD because they smelled opportunity, but it never materialized. But at that moment, Bleckman was shoveling money at the universe trying to keep his popularity. He was giving away $150,000 a year contracts like water. He gave one to Livroni, to Lee Haney, to Dorian, to Flex. He would give them to Chris Cormier. He would give them to everybody to try to get this army of, well-known people and capture the audience. But nobody gave a shit. They followed. Yeah, that's good. But they all came to us because, they wanted to belong to something. So that just kept growing. It hasn't stopped growing. It's grown and grown for 11 freaking years. So I am awed by it that we have 260,000 subscribers, on RX Muscle on YouTube. I mean, it's just, I can't believe it.
Is After Hours your biggest show?
After Hours is After Hours is probably the biggest. Yeah. Because of that just became Heavy Muscle Radio, is the biggest. After Hours is sort of like an add-on to that. Okay. We don't really do all the time, but Heavy Muscle Radio is the big one.
You're the co-founder of all those, right? Yeah.
Dave and I started it together in 2009. Yep.
Yeah. How are those guys off camera? Are they the same pretty much? Is Jimmy Bull the same and Valentino?
Yeah.
I think I was watching yesterday's episode. What was the deal with him about he might have to get a colonoscopy or something like that? He was going off.
He didn't have filling in his apple pie.
What's that?
He didn't have the apple pie in the filling in his apple pie.
Yeah. Oh, he was so pissed about that.
Yeah. Does he really get like that though? Off camera?
Yeah. He's very high strung. He's very sensitive. Yeah. But I've known him. He's my oldest friend in the industry. I've known him the longest out of everybody. And he was just, he shows up at my house in the middle of the night on, unannounced from New York, driving. He can come here anytime. He's my brother, and anytime when you pass the 50-yard line, you're supposed to get a colonoscopy. He waited; he didn't get one yet. So now he's 60 and he's finally getting a colonoscopy. And if you've ever had a colonoscopy, I've had 2 of them now. They give you a prep kit, which includes 2 bottles of this horrendous crap that you got to drink and not eat for 24 hours. Jimmy cannot not eat for 24 hours. That is impossible. So I don't know what he's going to do. He didn't fast, he did not eat, and he didn't take the stuff. I haven't heard from him yet, so I can't wait to hear this story. But he insisted that he was going to go get the colonoscopy anyway. He wasn't going to tell them. So it's like, Jimmy, eventually they're going to know.
that first initial time is going to turn into, he's going to have to do it again. So it's going to turn into 2 good ones.
Yep. I hope he likes being unconscious because they're going to knock him out twice.
That is great.
Lord.
What do you guys have planned, you and Dave? Any future shows? Anything different?
Every week, yeah, we do 2 shows. I've been doing 2 shows a week.
Not many any new segments?
Oh, like new shows?
Yeah.
We really don't have any room for him. I mean,
I know you guys do a lot.
Dave, he puts out so much content. I mean, he just cranks it out. He's amazing. I mean, Muscles in the Morning, Ask Dave, you know, After Hours, Heavy Muscle Radio, interviews, show contest coverage, his guru course. I mean, he's amazing.
And on top of that, he coaches clients too. Cause I mean, I worked with Dave several times coming up and he's always responds. He never misses an email. And if I refer somebody to him, he's always responds to every single person. So he's nonstop. And it's usually like it used to be, I don't know where it's at now, but he used to always respond late in the morning. And
well, you know, the sheer volume. I mean, I can't have more than 20, you know, diet clients at a time. You know, even 20 is a lot, man. That's for the kind of attention that I like to, you know, pay to people. That's a lot. I mean, 15 is pushing it, but 20 is my absolute limit. Cut off. Sorry, you can't come on. And he does like 200, you know, in a year and during the course of a year. And it's like, I cannot believe that you can do this. I mean, and like you said, he doesn't miss an email. He responds. He's on you. Like, I just don't know how you do it.
No, I was a species athlete for a period of time. And I mean, he was on top of every single thing. And just nonstop.
He's amazing. He really is an absolute amazing guy.
Yeah, I've been corresponding with him coming on the show, and he's coming on. He said, get some shows under your belt first. He said, then I'll come on.
Yeah, call Romano first.
Yeah.
He'll do it.
Yeah. Get Jimmy the Bull, then I'll think about it. Oh, that's funny.
I think those are some of my favorite segments of the after hours is when you guys start getting into the old, you know, talking the Italian talk about the food. Cause I'm Italian. My family's from New York.
Oh, good.
But I didn't actually grow up in New York. I grew up in Florida. So hearing that it always touches home for me. And I love that part.
Yeah, there definitely is a connection there. You know, if you're an Italian from New York, you know
it. My family's from New York, so I know all this. I can totally relate to all the stories.
Yeah, well, you're even though Florida's like little New York, so it's the same thing. But yeah, I mean, and being bodybuilders too. You know, the Italian New York bodybuilder. It's like you can be anywhere in the world. You run into one of your bros, and it's like you're covered. You got nothing to worry about. And it's a great feeling, you know. I don't know that outside of bodybuilding in any other faction of my life.
Yeah. Do you still keep up with Olympia, John?
You mean the show? Watch? Yeah.
Do you still watch it? And keep up with the guys?
I watch. I mean, I watch the men's bodybuilding. I'm not really into, you know, the board shorts and the bikini stuff and the women's stuff. You know, I mean, not since my wife stopped competing in physique, I just lost interest in that. But no, I mean, modern, you know, men's bodybuilding is always going to be that's the fallback. I mean, that's where I came up. You know, I have several friends of mine who are Mr. Olympias. I'm deeply connected to the show, and I think the new talent that's coming out now is just really phenomenal. And I mean, you guys.
Yeah, I was going to ask you your predictions on who do you think to watch for?
I really like Hadi Chupin. I really like that guy's physique and the level of conditioning that he brings. I would love to see Sean Roden come back and you know get in the mix in top shape. I think Big Ramy is. I mean, he's been my big disappointment until he finally won the Olympia. I've always been in his corner from the first minute I saw this guy. I go, this is going to be Mr. Olympia. And, you know, after numerous letdowns, he finally did it. I really like Hunter Labrada. I think he's amazing. There's a few guys that are, you know, really, really good. You know, I'd like to see Brandon Curry, you know, tune up and come back in, you know, and fight in shape. There's a lot of good guys out there. You could conceivably put together a very dense field, you know, for the Mr. Olympia this year. And I think every bit as powerfully lined up as any of the 90s. lineups.
Yeah. I interviewed Guy Cisternino the other day, and he's pretty confident. He says Sean's going to be back this year.
I sure hope so. I'd love to see that.
I mean, it's how unfortunate is that to win and have to hang it up shortly after that. I mean,
yeah, that whole thing was handled very poorly, in my opinion.
I agree.
I saw it. I could see it from the business perspective of the Olympia and Jake Wood's position, as well as the IFBBs. I completely understand that, but I think at some point you have to revisit the situation and say, look, it's been 3 years, man. It's been 3 years. Not one single other woman has come forward and said, yeah, he did that to me too. So this is an isolated event. He's only done this one time, and the one time he did it, he got caught. I mean, you got to start weighing probability at some point with probability, and it's just at this point you're not doing anybody any favors by keeping him out.
No. And there has to be some point where we have to stick up for our own too. And I mean, because I mean, Sean, what an amazing physique just put together. I mean, perfect symmetry and just beautiful flow to his physique, and not to have him on the stage is like, it's.
Dude, the original RX Muscle Studios, we had a big mural of him in the back of David Mine's head. I mean, the entire wall was him and I forgot her name, Larissa Reese. But we believed in him from day one. I mean, so the first year, okay, I could see them keeping him out the first year, but after that, after absolutely nothing came of this, they should have revisited it.
Yeah, definitely.
How about the location here in Florida? You think it's going to stay here?
Yeah. Vegas was great when Wayne D'Amelia had the Olympia, and it was at the Mandalay Bay, and it was at that level. Mm-hmm. When you left Mandalay Bay, that level went down, and it doesn't matter how much money you spend. It doesn't matter what you do. And it's not, when you come down, I mean, we were on the level of, championship fights. We were on the level of rock star concerts, Mm-hmm. When we had the Mandalay Bay, that was a big deal. And it was self-contained. It was a great venue. It was a great hotel. It was all in one. The expo was there. You didn't have to go all the way diagonally across the city to one vent to the expo, and then come back to the venue for the Olympia, and traffic in the afternoon, the heat, my God, you know how hot it is in Vegas in freaking September? So not that it's any cooler in Orlando, but
you got a lot of water parks here though.
Yeah, you got I think Orlando is more and affordable place to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Bringing a body show to Vegas is like bringing gasoline to a bonfire. So, yeah. There's there's tons of trouble that could come out of that, mm-hmm. and I've certainly seen my share of it. So, mm-hmm. I think Orlando is a much more mm-hmm. needed and subdued environment. Mm-hmm. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, it's in my backyard, so yeah, I hope it stays here. I love it. But of course, I liked flying to Vegas because I've been to a few shows out there, so it was cool for me to go out there. So
yeah, Vegas is great, but 22 Olympias in a row, a lot of them were in Vegas, and mm-hmm. Having been subject to when it was great versus when Robin Chang was running it for AMI, it just went down. You can knock something down one peg, and kind of live with it. But when you go down like 20 pegs, it's kind of tough.
Yeah, no. I mean, also for the forwarding of the sport as a whole, I mean, isn't if you wanted to make it more common amongst families, then or what better places to come than Orlando?
Plus, Jake Wood is a really, this is the first time since Weider, a real bodybuilder, has been involved in the Olympia, and he's a good businessman. He's got good business sense. He's successful. He's got resources. He knows how to get things done. And you got to remember, the Olympia was going to be in Vegas this last year, 4 weeks before the Olympia. We had Dan Solomon on our show to make the announcement. 4 weeks before the show, they moved it all the way across the country.
Crazy.
So
I had plane tickets.
That was a phenomenal feat of you know, corporate machination. So sorry about your tickets, but
That's all right. I got credit. I could fly somewhere else eventually.
okay, good.
Yeah. And what about you, Ryan? Whenever if Florida, if the Olympia had been in Florida when you were competing, you think you had a different mindset?
No, the mindset was always the mindset. I mean, that would never change my mindset. My mindset was always, see, I was very fortunate to start the bodybuilding in the 90s era, before social media, before all that. And that carried on for the rest of my bodybuilding career and all that. So mindset's mindset. It wouldn't have mattered where the show was if I, you know, was fortunate enough to ever to qualify for the Olympia. That, yeah, my mindset was just the same way. So it wouldn't have mattered. Could have been in Antarctica. I would have still had the same mindset. So.
Yeah.
Spoken like a bodybuilder. That's exactly what I would expect.
Yeah. Same with me. I'd go anywhere. So, well, John, man, it's awesome you came on the show. I want to do one more thing, and it's kind of fun. So I thought of something. I said, let me finish with this. So we're gonna go down the Wack Pack, and I'm gonna tell you somebody's names, and I want you to one word to describe each person. Okay.
Okay.
That's it.
Use the same word twice.
Hey, okay, that's fine. All right, we'll start easy. Dave Palumbo. One word to describe him.
Genius.
Genius.
Yep.
Mr. G.
Oh my God. One word for Mr.
One word.
Energetic.
Greg Valentino.
Out of his mind.
Listen, I think you need to give him a
So
few
you
more.
say mindless?
No, not mindless.
Not mindless. Okay. No,
I need a phrase. I can't do a word. I got to do a phrase.
You need to give him a phrase, man. One word's
phrase.
tough.
Yeah, phrase. Give me a phrase. Let me use a phrase. So Mr. G is boundless energy. Committed. Greg Valentino knows everybody. That's what I'm going to say about him. He knows everybody.
I'd say good storyteller.
Good storyteller, knows everybody. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, Jimmy the Bull.
Very lovable. Jimmy is probably the most lovable guy in the entire world.
That's it for the Wack Pack, right? Am I missing somebody?
I think you got them all.
I think I got them all.
Bobby Smalls, maybe.
Yeah, but he hasn't been on that much.
No, he's been doing the dad thing, and you know he runs a big company. He's very successful.
Yeah, and I've just noticed you've been on Heavy Muscle Radio a lot lately too, huh?
I'm sorry.
You've been on the Heavy Muscle Radio a lot lately.
Usually, I belong on Heavy Muscle Radio. Yeah. That was my, Chris Aceto came in after I got kicked out by the forces that be. Yeah. And until I made amends, he took my place, and then it just grew into the, what they were. So we had Iron Rage for a while, and that Lee Priest was more, suited to that for Dave's purposes. And then they've been including me back on Heavy Muscle Radio, but After Hours is pretty much I would say pretty much I've been doing both of them. So After Hours and Heavy Muscle Radio, those two. And of course, you can catch me on Fitness, Fame, and Fortune with Richie Gaspari.
Yeah, I noticed you guys started kind of like just doing audio, and now you're doing the video on that now, huh?
Well, the guys at Mind Pump, those guys in Northern California, they were instrumental in getting us started and helping us out and getting us going. And their business model was audio. They just did iTunes and with no video, and they didn't do video until much later. So we kind of followed their leads, and they're incredibly successful. I think they have 20 million downloads, at this point. So we listened, consulted with them. I actually traded some work for them so they would actually, help us out recording our first few. And we were doing audio. And then, man, everybody made comments. Like, I mean, every single comment. We need video. You guys got to do video. How come there's no video option? So it was just two heads talking. You really want video? We're not even that good looking. Well, Richie is. But fine. We did video. Now we do video. We do both. We do both. So we're syndicated on Libsyn, so you can get us on iTunes and Google Play and Apple Play and all of that shit. And which actually account for more of,
Yeah, there's a lot of work to that, because I'm just doing YouTube right now, and I'm still working on getting. I'm actually about to do my Spotify, but there's a lot to it.
Well, I if I were you, I would go to Libsyn, and Libsyn is the syndicated hosting site, and you open an account with them. You just load up your show on their site, and it spreads them out. So
Libsyn, I have to remember that.
Yeah, Libsyn.
I've heard of them before. I just said,
it's the easiest way. You just have to do it once, and they throw it out there. I mean, we're on 38 different platforms all over the world.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's perfect.
Libsyn, yeah. I mean, we have listeners literally all over the world, in Africa and Asia and Philippines and Russia and everywhere.
Maybe you guys need to have that fat pizza guy on there. He'll get you some views.
Actually, I've been doing Gaspari Kitchen videos. If you go on the Gaspari Nutrition website and you go to Gaspari Kitchen, you can. I've come full circle. I'm cooking again.
Oh man, that's awesome. I'll have to watch that. All right, well, Mr. Romano, man, I thank you again for coming on the show. I really appreciate it, and hopefully we can do this again.
Sure. Glad I could help you guys. I'm always happy to give back. You got to start somewhere. So I hope this helps you guys out.
Oh, I hope so too, and I'm sure it will, man. You're a pioneer, man.
I don't know who named me that.
All right, guys. Well,